Thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I want to take the time to first wish everybody a happy Jesus Pride Month. For the month of June, we have designated this month to Jesus Pride because we love the Lord and we believe in biblical principles. And we're glad to wish you a Jesus Pride as you wish the rest of us a Pride, happy Pride Month. Now, I'm standing before you today as a grandfather. I have wonderful grandkids. I have one who is in the age group of this book when Aiden became a brother. And when Aiden was born, everyone thought he was a girl. But once he came out as a trans boy, Aiden and his parents fixed the parts of his life that didn't fit anymore, and he settled happily into being himself. Aiden didn't feel like any kind of girl. He was really another kind of boy. Now, this book is for kids, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, so forth and so on. And this book is available in 31 elementary schools in our county. This is garbage. And whoever is responsible for this ought to be ashamed. And I want to say this. There is a judgment day coming. But there is evidence that the God of the Bible is passing judgment. When God passes judgment, you know what he does? He gives people over to vile affections, vile thoughts, when they reject his truth and decide no matter what, they're going to believe what they want to believe anyway. You know what God says? He says, have at it. And it's evident that in many cases, I'm seeing judgment pass, because there is no way anyone in their right mind can argue that the things that we're hearing today that's being placed in our high schools, elementary schools, middle schools for kids to hear and read and practice has anything to do with making them better, making America better, making our neighborhoods better. This is trash. And I pray that to the extent that you can, you will rise up against this. There ought to be something in us that will make us want to protect the hearts and minds and even the appetites of our children. And many of them have no sexual appetite at all until they read this. Why are we sexualizing our children? I'm as angry about this as I can be. And I pray that you will consider our words and give our children a chance. They're not sex toys, and they're not your kids. We want to leave raising the children to the parents. Thank you very much.
We need more grandfathers like that. I mean, wow, what an amazing presentation. And he said so much there. There's so many takeaways from that. But I want to focus on two here with you. The first, you'll notice that he said, these are not your children. These are our kids, not yours. And of course, what he's alluding to there is the propensity among members of the modern left to begin to see our kids as theirs to indoctrinate as they see fit. And if parents get in the way of that, then parents need to be pushed aside. You may have heard about the Canadian law that could potentially send parents to jail for not affirming their child's gender identity. The law criminalizes what's broadly defined as conversion therapy and prohibits therapists, parents, or even pastors from counseling individuals away from same-sex attraction. And critics maintain that the broad wording of the law means that conversations, sharing personal stories, or promoting services to help individuals reduce non-heterosexual behavior could be interpreted as promoting conversion therapy, which could result in imprisonment. Here in the States, bumbling Biden recently woke up from one of his numerous naps to claim that school children actually don't belong to parents when they're in the classroom, emphasizing that they're all our children and commending the teachers for recognizing this. But what we have to recognize here is, as this grandfather alluded to, that the modern left's attempt at circumventing the family actually goes hand in hand with the trans agenda. In 1970, the Marxist feminist Shulamith Firestone wrote this, quote, "The end goal of feminist revolution must be not just the elimination of male privilege, but of the sex distinction itself. Then the tyranny of the biological family would be broken. unobstructed pansexuality would replace heterosexuality, and all forms of sexuality would be allowed and indulged. Firestone argued that, quote, unless revolution uproots the basic social organization, the biological family, the tapeworm of exploitation will never be annihilated. You see, cultural Marxists from the very beginning have always advocated the annihilation of the nuclear family, precisely because it was the family that trained children to have loyalties and fidelities that superseded modern ideologies like cultural Marxism. The end goal of gender ideology is thus not equality or equity or civil rights. The end goal is to overturn the very foundations of traditional society, namely the families. And any wonder then that the cultural Marxists, leftists that oversee education in our nation are pushing this ideology while at the same time undermining the family? This is why I'm so encouraged by patriots like this grandfather for standing up to these woke radicals. The second thing that this grandfather called out was the importance of training the loves and desires of our students. In other words, education isn't just about information, it's about formation, forming the character of students to love what's truly lovely and desire what's truly desirable, and hence experience their ultimate human flourishing. This is precisely the kind of education our founding fathers all received. Education in the West for over 2,000 years centered on cultivating wisdom and virtue in the student. The student was expected to acquire wisdom, which understood the world in the manner in which God created it and intended it. Nature and nature's God, as the founding fathers would put it. And secondly, the student had to learn to align their affections, desires, and loves with that divine order, which meant acquiring virtue. Wisdom and virtue were the two essential elements of what it meant to be human in the Western world for over 2,000 years. So education wasn't simply about acquiring facts or information. It was fundamentally about formation. An educated person was considered a virtuous person. This is why the classical liberal arts were at the center of education. Through the reading of the great books and appreciating great music and art and poetry, we learn what it means to be truly human. This was the education of the founding fathers. Before the Revolution, the most widely published text besides the Bible was called the Westminster Confession of Faith, composed by the English Puritans in the 17th century. And it was a centerpiece for the New England Primer, which was the primary school book for children in the 18th and 19th century here in the United States, the new United States. And virtually every member of the First Continental Congress had the Westminster Shorter Catechism memorized by the time they turned 11 years old. And the good news is that there's a very real renaissance of precisely this education going on all over our nation. Check out the website for the Association of Classical Christian Schools to find a school like that near you. So all of this is to say that while we still have to deal with these crazy woke school boards, with grandfathers like that, an educational renaissance is near indeed.